Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for being here. So today I wanted to talk about the Instagram monetization program called Reels Play because I've been doing it for the last couple months and I've actually been collecting data. I've seen a lot of videos out there where people talk about the program and their own personal experiences, and I think that's great. But I haven't seen a lot of data out there on specifically, or a lot of videos out there that include data. And so I wanted to bring that to the discussion. I've plotted the number of views I've had over the last 3 months and the payout that I've received, and I've actually plotted the line of what I think is the equation that Instagram's using. So come along and we'll talk through that today, and I'll hopefully provide you some information that's useful for you too. Okay, so quickly before we jump into the data, Reels Play, what is this thing? You probably already know if you're here looking at the video, but at the same time, maybe some of you don't. Reels Play is essentially the monetization program for Instagram. They're trying to compete with TikTok and YouTube, and we've all heard these discussions, but this has been going on for a number of months, if not over a couple years. And I think Instagram instituted this as a pilot over a year ago. And they essentially wanted to create a program, or were forced into creating a program for paying out creators. And that's a good thing because it means some of the money is channeling back into the creative workforce. But this was something that they were kind of backed up against the wall and were forced to do. They initially piloted this with a number of people, I don't know how many, but then they rolled it out to the masses. And of course, I am the masses and was included in this larger next phase of creators. Initially, I turned down the opportunity because I didn't really know what it was. It popped up as a notification. I didn't think about it. But then as I got another offer a couple months later, I decided to say yes. And I've been doing it for the last 3 months, for June, July, and August of 2022. Now, for me personally, I've received the same offer all 3 times. You can get $0, obviously, if you have 0 views, up to a maximum of $1,200 US if you have 11 million views. And that's basically the specifications that you receive in the notification. So what I've been doing is I've been tracking over the course of that period. As you receive views, you get a real-time update of how much the payout is. So I've been tracking all of those, and I've put that into a spreadsheet so we can visualize what their equation looks like and really internalize for us, whether there's value in investing beyond a certain number of views. So let's hop into the data and we'll just walk through it. I've done a simple Excel spreadsheet and I'll walk you through what I've prepared. By the way, did I mention I'm a PhD student? This is kind of what I do in my spare time. All right, so what I have here in this table that you can see here is 2 columns. The first column here is the number of views that my Reels received. And then the second column here is the payout that Instagram paid me, was stating that they were willing to pay for that number of views. I've also included the period here. So I've done this in June, July, and August over the last 3 months. And so I include that here as well because I think that's interesting to look at if their equation's shifting at all. As you can see, as I mentioned before, if you get 0 views, there's 0 payout, of course. But if you get 11 million views, the maximum payout is $1,200. So those are the parameters. And then these are individual snapshots, really, of how many views I received over the course of that period. And you can see my maximum payout for basically all 3 months has been, this August month is not done yet, but my maximum payout for all 3 months is about $100. And my views range from 30,000 to 70,000. So a pretty large range there. All right, so let's hop into the chart just so we can show you what we're looking at. So here we go. This is all of that data plotted. Now, why is this interesting? Well, it's interesting, I think, because what we can do is we can plot a line, a best fit line, which is what you see in the dotted line here. So we have the same data presented here. This is the payout, number of dollars, and this is the views. And at the extreme, just, in case you're interested and you're optimistic, you could make $1,200 for 11 million views. And obviously at the other extreme, you would make $0. All of my views, all of my payouts have been in this tiny little bubble here in the very, very, very bottom left of the chart. But what's really cool is if we do a best fit line using the data that we can collect, that I've collected, as well as the maximum payout, we can see a very, very, very good fit equation for how Instagram is doing the payout. And we know that because if you want to get into statistics, the R squared is almost 1. I've never seen an R squared quite this high in any of the analysis I've done, but it's 0.9985. So we have a very good guess here at what the equation looks like. a couple things to point out. This is a power equation, which means it's exponential. Well, it means it's a power equation, roughly kind of a square, 1x to the 1/2 or square root. But what's interesting about it is it means there's biggest bang for the buck up front. And then there are these diminishing returns as the number of real views goes up. So you can go very quickly from $0 to $100, which is what I'm doing relatively. But then it's a little bit harder to go from 100 to 200, and a little bit harder to go to 200 to 300, et cetera, et cetera. And at some point you get up to kind of this threshold here, and going from 10 million views to 12 million views or 11 million views, a whole 1 million views more will only net you maybe like $100. Whereas at this point here, going from 0 to like say 30,000 views will also net you a $100 increase. So that's what we see in this chart, and that's really the big picture that I would want to share, is just this perspective here. So here in this second chart, what I've done is I've basically just looked at the payouts that I've received. Everything else is the same axes here, and it's the same equation line. But you can see my payouts have been all around $100, as we saw in the data before. Now, why is this interesting? Well, what it shows you is that when I can hit 30,000 views here, even 20,000, like right around here, like 27,000 views, and when I hit 70,000 views, more than twice as many views, I basically get the exact same payout. And that's because this line, this equation dictates that. You have a big ramp up here, and then it starts to get much more gradual. And for me as a creator that has about 6,000 followers, 70,000 views in a month is a pretty darn good month. And I'm not expecting to even double that. It's not within my reach to get up to 150,000. But even if I did hit 150,000, I'd barely hit $200, maybe $175. So for me, as I look at this, my takeaway from my personal experience is I'm going to basically get to $100, and then once I hit $100 in payout, whether that's 27,000 views or 50,000 views, I'm just going to stop worrying about Reels. I mean, maybe I'll casually produce some for myself, but I'm not going to do it with the expectation at all at making any more money. Because once you get to $100, in my case, the likelihood of getting anything substantially more than that is extremely small based on the number of reels I can produce. And, when I look at this, I think there are two ways to kind of think about. One way is to say, well, you read the high level talk about this, and you see that you could net up to $1,200, and you think, hey, I could make a living off of this. But that's very unachievable for me. And instead, when you look at that equation, the number of views before I would even approach that would be so many views that I would never possibly get there. So instead of thinking about this as something to basically generate income, I think of this as just, finally, I'm getting a $100 check every month from Instagram for doing exactly the same stuff that I used to do before Instagram monetized. And so, yeah, that's $100. So I made $300 over the last 3 months. It's not a ton of money, but that's $300 that I can put towards a new lens or a photography trip or something like that. And within that context, it's actually a pretty positive thing for me, because I can just basically justify my obsession with photography a bit more easily because I'm generating a couple $100 every couple months. One other thing that I did in this analysis that I wanted to share with you is I plotted whether or not it was June, July, or August. And so you can see here most of the data points I've collected when I started thinking about this were in August. But I did this because I wanted to see if their equation was shifting, if there were changes to the equation, because I have the same parameters for the Reels play for all 3 months. So, the maximum payout is the same, and the number of views for that maximum payout is consistent across all 3 months. So I'm a little perplexed, actually, why there is kind of a shifting here, but it doesn't appear to be systematically getting to be less of a payout. And I say that because in June, you see I netted $100 for 27 views. But in August, or in July rather, the next month, I had 70,000 views and I only netted $104. And so if this was systematically going down, I would suggest that they're devaluing essentially views. But instead, August, the most recent payout for this month, appears to be right in the middle of the two of them. So anyway, that's to say, it doesn't look to me like, at least at this point, they're devaluing views. It seems to me like they've established this equation They're using this equation to value real play, bonuses, and they're staying true to that, at least for the near term. Now, whether or not the algorithm for views is different when you monetize or when you don't monetize, I don't know. For me personally, I've continued to grow, in a small sense, maybe 100 followers or so over the last couple months. So it doesn't seem to me like I'm growing any less fast based on the monetization versus non-monetization. But I'm not really sure. So I could do additional analysis on that if it's interesting to people. But anyway, I just wanted to share with you this data. I hope it's useful to you. I hope you can see how there's this slope here. And really the biggest bang for the buck is in the very beginning. And, hopefully that's helpful for you. So let me know if you like this type of analysis in this video. Please subscribe to the channel. I hope to do more of this. And if folks have questions about this, please let me know. And I'm happy to dig a little bit deeper or do other ways of slicing the data if it's helpful to others. So be well, take care. Don't forget to get outside. But also, don't worry too much about Reels Play. I'd say do it. Get that $100 every month or whatever you can get, and bank that money and put it to your hobby or whatever you're doing. But don't expect to be able to get $1,200 every month unless you're already getting tens of millions of views every month, in which case you're probably not watching my video. All right, take care. Bye-bye, and be well.